You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Obviously, there's LeQuint Allen, who we just talked about on the previous segment. He had another year. He could have come back if he wanted to, but again, he's making a decision that's best for himself, and I wish him the best of luck in the NFL. But that's over 1,000 yards rushing and 500 yards receiving, so that's 1,500 combined yards and 20 touchdowns that is being wiped away. You also got Jackson Meeks. Jackson Meeks was a Georgia transfer from this past season who recently declared for the NFL draft, but Jackson Meeks was someone who was always going to be a one-year guy. He only had one more year of eligibility when he transferred to Syracuse, but still, it's a big loss. Jackson Meeks, he entered the year as the wide receiver 4. He was the 4th wide receiver on the depth chart, but by the end of the year, he became the wide receiver 1. In fact, it was really after the first few games. Once Zeed Haynes was dealing with those personal matters a couple of weeks into the year, that's when Jackson Meeks stepped up and just grabbed that role for the rest of the season as the wide receiver 1. He was tremendous. Second team All ACC. He finished the season with 78 catches, over 1,000 yards receiving, and 7 touchdowns. And he closed the year with 3 consecutive 100-yard games. Not going to be easy to replace a guy like Jackson Meeks either. The good news, though, we'll talk about later on in the show, how the Orange do have plenty of weapons on the outside. So I am not necessarily worried about the loss of Jackson Meeks compared to a guy like LeQuint Allen. Then there's also Oronde Gadsden. Oronde Gadsden's very interesting because I think he's gone, but it's not yet officially official. The reason why I say this is because Fran Brown at the club dart party in New York City, he said it a couple of weeks ago that Oronde Gadsden is leaving. He said he's leaving. That was from Fran Brown. And in the same sentence, he also said that Trevor Pena was coming back. But we're still waiting for an official announcement on Oronde Gadsden. But for now, I think it's a pretty safe bet to assume that Oronde Gadsden will not be back with Syracuse in 2025. So let's just say he's gone. And if he's gone, that's another big loss because Oronde Gadsden was an AP third-team All-American in 2024 and first-team All-ACC in 2024. He had 73 catches for over 900 yards in 7 touchdowns in all the games that he played. So between LeQuint Allen and Jackson Meeks and Oronde Gadsden, that is a ton of production that the Orange are going to have to replace. Let's just do the math at the top of my head. 1,500 yards from LeQuint, 1,000 yards from Jackson Meeks, so you're at 2,500, and nearly 1,000 for Oronde Gadsden. So you're looking at about 3,500 yards that the Orange are missing out on from next year from some of their skill players. That's a lot. That is a whole lot of production. Woo, that's a lot. As far as how Syracuse is going to replace those guys, I think that is a podcast for the future. In fact, I'm planning on doing one about that next week because I do think there are some depth players on this team that can really step up next season and are primed for breakouts. But can they do as good of a job as those 3 players? That's a big if. That's a big question right there. Also, it should be noted that we are still awaiting the Kyle McCord situation and whether or not he's going to get that waiver for a 5th year. I don't think that LeQuint Allen going to the NFL has anything to do with Kyle McCord's decision. I don't. I think this is LeQuint Allen thinking about himself, which he has every right to do. And by the way, that's how it should be. And saying, I want to go to the NFL. I don't want to risk another year in college. I want to go to the NFL and hopefully have a long and productive NFL career. I don't think it has much to do with Kyle McCord coming back or not. I don't. That's just my opinion, though. So overall, the takeaway here is that a lot of key production from Syracuse this past season on offense is going to be gone for 2025.